Hello and welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast. We are powered each week by our friends at Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal has you covered. They can do rock and sand. They haul rock and sand. They can do driveway work, and they can even now do horizontal grinding. I don't know what that is, Scott, but they can do it. Give Keith a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is proud to be the premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Tim Estes. I'll be at our studios here in Americus, Georgia. I'm joined each week by our co-host, Scott Westbrook, who joins me today from the satellite studios over in Butler, Georgia. It is Thanksgiving week, Scott, and we all have a tremendous amount to be thankful for. One of the things that I'm thankful for this year is that we've gotten to interact with so many good people because of this podcast, and it's been a lot of fun for both you and I to find out the people that are enjoying it.
Oh, yeah. And we get calls throughout the week. And I got a call just last night from somebody said, well, how are y'all going to do it this week? And I told them, I said, we're going to have to pre-record it because we both have got plans on Thursday evening. And I don't think Anthony's going to open up the Roman oven for us just to come up there and do it.
That's right. Hey, it's week 15 out of a 17-week high school season. We're down to only one local team left playing. And I see you're sporting the hat of that one team. Definitely a few upsets this past round. Scott, 3 defending champions were knocked out this past round. One of those I called on our podcast last week. That was Toombs County defeated Thompson 41-30.
I felt quite certain Thompson had the, they were in the catbird seat to win that game. Toombs was kind of a newcomer at that round. And Thompson had been there several times, of course, the state championship last year. But yeah, it was relatively close. But Toombs left no doubt with a 41-30 score.
And then Rome defeated Langston Hughes. Of course, Langston Hughes, the defending 6A state champions, and Rome defeated them 42-14.
Well, and the Ohio State commit, the quarterback at Langston Hughes, I think he was. They kind of held him to a fairly conservative game, and that definitely was a surprise, and had people really, a lot of folks outside of Georgia had their eye on that game because of the Nolan being the Ohio State commit and being so highly recruited at quarterback.
And then one that didn't surprise you and I, Warner Robins knocked off defending champion Ware County in the 5A classification. Warner Robins doesn't. They don't rebuild, they just reload, and they're reloaded this year.
Well, and they have a brand new coach too, though. They've got their coach is now from last year. This brought them to so many state championship appearances. Is now at Peach County. So
right.
So this new coach that's come in has they passed the baton to him, and he's taken and run with it.
Another interesting thing about the playoff run, Scott, you've got 2 teams still in it that have never been this far in their school history. Both Lumpkin County and Bryan County have now advanced deeper into the playoffs than ever before. Of course, Bryan County down there near Savannah, Lumpkin County up in North Georgia. My buddy Rob Staples, who serves with me on the GRPA board, he's a Musco Lighting representative, got to see his son, Will Staples, kick the winning field goal for Lumpkin County in overtime. So I know that was a lot of fun for him.
Yeah, like you said, there are 2 different parts of the state. Lumpkin County being Dahlonega, not necessarily historically known for strong football. But if you've got a good kicking game, that right there really tips the scales in your favor in a lot of close games. Bryan County, I think that's Pembroke, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, just outside of Savannah. and they're still going strong. They if I remember, they were pretty decent in baseball a year or two ago. I didn't know if Sly was about to have to play them or something happened. I thought we were going to have to play them in the playoffs. Something happened with Bryan County, but I'm glad to see they're doing well in football too.
One Digital Solution is a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial, and HR platforms provide you with a personalized, tech-enabled solution for contemporary work-life experience. One Digital solves real problems for your business and for your employees by fusing together things like employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's really everything all in one. It's One Digital. Contact our good friend Will Peterson at 229-347-6289. One Digital is proud to be a sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. Scott, before we get into previewing this week's playoff game, I want to go back 1 week and review Southland Academy. They were in the quarterfinals of the GIAA Class AAA bracket. They lost Friday night to Valwood School 35-13, ending their season at 5-7. But I thought a really good job by Rod Murray and his staff. Most of the year they played banged up.
Well, they did in this game right here. I know you're going to rehash it, but it was close, at least till halftime. I think on into the second half, it was a relatively close game. And a lot of times we were getting scoring updates in the press box, and a lot of us were kind of raising our eyebrows going, wait a minute, Southland may catch lightning in a bottle tonight and beat Valwood. But towards the end of the game, it looks like they kind of pulled away, but I don't think the score really reflects the overall atmosphere of the whole game. And like you said, I think, the injuries that Coach Murray has had to deal with and maneuver around and really play kids or young men who are much younger than he would like to play just because of injuries. Hopefully that'll come back in the next few years, and those guys' experience will pay off when they were younger due to the injuries this year.
Let's recap that. Of course, we talked about what a good football team Valwood was and is. They defeated Southland 49-0 earlier in the regular season. This time around, as Scott mentioned, it was very competitive. In fact, it was 14-7 at the half. Marquise Fennell of Valwood had a 2-yard rushing touchdown on Valwood's first drive, but Southland would come right back thanks to quarterback Bank Simmons, who would find the end zone from 7 yards out on their next drive and tie things midway through the first quarter at 7 apiece. DeMar Riley, the top-notch running back from Valwood, would find the end zone a few drives later for Valwood, and they went up 14-7, and that's the way it was at the half. And as you mentioned, Scott, we were in the press box getting updates, and we thought, wow, this could be Southland's night. And it stayed that way for most of the third quarter. Near the end of the third quarter, Valwood's Landon Ryan would recover a Southland fumble on the Valwood 26-yard line, and then the Valiant's quarterback, Tate Snellgrove, would connect with Womack in the end zone and give them a 21-7 lead near the end of the third quarter. Only 2 plays into the fourth quarter, that DeMar Riley kid at running back would scamper 55 yards for another Valwood touchdown, and that would make it 28-7. Midway through the fourth quarter, however, sophomore receiver Mac McMichael, who we've talked about a good bit on our program this year, Southland's Mac McMichael looks to be somebody you can watch over the next 2 years. He caught a touchdown pass. The Raiders attempted to go for 2. It was not successful, and the score was 28-13. And then with 4:41 remaining in the game, Riley would again break through the Southland defense and go 34 yards for the final touchdown, and the final score was 35-13. Scott, much of the season, including this game, Southland was banged up with injuries to key linemen. I know when I spoke to the team last Friday, they had one of their linemen, one of the Say boys, was going to be out with a knee injury again. And when you're talking small school football, whether that's in the GIAA or the smaller classifications in GHSA, you just don't have the depth to fully recover from that.
Even the very, very good teams don't. That's that. I mean, the ones that are the top tier, it drops off significantly in most cases in most positions. There's sometimes you catch a group that comes through that's loaded in this, the specialist, or you may have a lot of depth there. Sometimes a group may come through and you got a lot of depth in linemen, but rarely do you ever have any depth in both areas of the game or all areas of the game. And I think that this year the injuries that Coach Murray had to deal with and his staff were sometimes just impossible to overcome.
And Scott, Southland's going to lose some key senior performers, and we'll need to fill those holes with some up-and-coming players. The task is not going to get any easier for Coach Murray and the Raiders, but Scott, you have to tip your cap to this team and their staff. They fought hard all season long.
Every single game. There was, we would get the reports back, during the game and after the game, and talking to the parents and talking to some of the people that were at the game. It was something that they went in every week expecting to win, even against teams like Valwood. And so, they, like you said, they fought, through a lot of the injuries that they dealt with all season long. And for a 5-7 record, right at almost 500, that's pretty successful with what they've had to deal with.
And looking at the GIAA Class AAA bracket, Scott, you're going to have John Millage Academy taking on Pinewood Academy in one semifinal. Then you'll have Valwood taking on Frederica Academy in the other semifinal. We said last week that we felt like this classification in the GIAA was basically a two-horse race between John Millage and Valwood. Do you still feel that way?
Oh, definitely. Even though the computer rankings have shown that John Millage is a 24-point favorite in their game, and Valwood's a 15-point favorite in their game. So that's, at least 2 and 3 scores coming in favor that much in a game tells you that how, even at this round, next to the last round, the Final Four, that how strong these teams are in comparison to their competition.
All South Appraisals is your trusted partner in appraising rural properties. They can handle all types of property, whether it's agricultural, commercial, or residential. From the vast farmlands to that charming country home that defines the heart and soul of our communities, All South Appraisals has a commitment to accuracy and a dedication to the unique nuances of rural properties, and that's what sets them apart. They blend modern technology with old-fashioned attention to detail to provide you with an appraisal that you can trust. Whether you're a lender, an attorney, an accountant, a real estate agent or broker, or a property owner, give All South Appraisals a call. Their number is 478-837-3818. All South Appraisals is proud to be a part of the Integrity Sports Podcast. Scott, I thought we'd take a brief look at some other area teams that are still in the hunt from here in the Southwest Georgia area. And I want to start with Class 7A, and we'll work our way down. But Class 7A, you've still got one Southwest Georgia team. That'll be Colquitt County. They'll take on your alma mater in Milton in the 7A classification.
Yeah, Colquitt County and Milton, they have in just a short while, they kind of have a storied history. When Milton won their state championship, I believe it was in 2018, they beat Colquitt County there. And coincidentally enough, the principal at Colquitt County then was a Milton High School graduate. So he was a guy who's year behind me there. But they've got to travel up to Milton. It's hard for me to even say because it wasn't even a town when I was there. But they've got to travel up to the town of Milton to play Milton High School. And they're a 13-point favorite, which I thought was a little surprising. But Colquitt's strong this year. Milton is probably, playing with house money at this point. They beat Collins Hill by doubling their score this past week. But Collins Hill beat North Cobb, and North Cobb had beat Milton earlier in the season. So Milton has had a relatively easy path to this point. So we'll see if that's a pretty far drive Colquitt County's got to make. And there's a lot of distractions for those kids out of Moultrie that once they get up there to Alpharetta and Roswell, Milton, maybe Milton can can catch them looking the other direction.
In the 6A classification, two of our Southwest Georgia teams, Thomas County Central and Lee County, both with games this week. TCC is going to be taking on Rome, while Lee County will face an undefeated and very surprising Douglas County team.
Yeah, Douglas County is another one that doesn't have a real strong football history here recently. Douglas County beat Sequoia 48-14 to get into this game. Douglas County is, and this strikes me as odd. Douglas County is a 4-point favorite in this game.
Yeah.
So, but Lee County, they've got to travel up to Douglasville to play that game, so that may have factored into the point spread. But Thomas County Central, they're playing Rome. I've got to go with Thomas County Central in that game simply because Thomas County Central had such good luck against Houston County and playing a phenomenal quarterback. And Rome's got a great quarterback. They've got a great quarterback who I've seen play in some all-star games. And so but they've got Thomas County Central favored. It's funny, both of those games are 4-point spreads on each one of the games.
In 5A, Scott, Warner Robins will take on Creekside. That'll be a good one. You got Coffee and Cass, and then Harris County and Jefferson. What do you think about the 5A matchups?
Creekside is a 7-point favorite over Warner Robins. I would think that the game would be a toss-up at this point because,
Gotta
Creekside,
question that one.
They went out there to that California, I believe, and played that Mater Day or whatever. And I believe that is that the team that went out there and played them out in California? Was it Creekside or I forget. I'm sorry. I'm trying to go by memory.
Sure about that.
Look and see. But anyway, Creekside is a 7-point favorite over Warner Robins. I would think that game may be closer. I think Warner Robins is kind of on a roll right now and peaking at the right time. Coffee's a 29-point favorite over Cass. Cass is another school, kind of like Lumpkin County. They're in a position that they're really not used to being in. They let's see who they upset. Well, they beat Mays, but they had that first round upset. I mean, they're a 4 seed, and they beat Kale in the first round to get to where they are right now. But Coffee's a 29-point favorite. I got to agree with that. I think Coffee's going to boat race them. Harris County, another team that's in unfamiliar territory. They're playing Jefferson. Jefferson's a 14-point favorite. I feel like Jefferson's probably going to beat them.
In the 4A classification, Perry is the only middle or South Georgia team that's left in that classification. They're going to take on Stevenson.
Talked to a friend of mine who was at the Perry Bainbridge game. That game ended up being 7-3.
A lot of defense.
Oh my gosh, he told me he's been a lot of high school football games. He's a guy our age, Tim, and he's told me, he said, Scott, that was some of the hardest hitting I've ever seen in a high school football game. He said, I'm talking every single play. And with a score 7-3, I agree with him that that's the case. And the quarterback for Perry broke his hand during the season, and his throwing hand, and had pins in his hand. And whenever they took the pins out, my buddy that's over there in Perry, he said, Scott, he got in. They took the pins out, and within a day, he wasn't throwing the ball, but he was in the game, handing it off. So he has recovered quickly, and seems to be doing pretty well. Perry is a 16-point favorite over Stevenson. They'll probably beat them by that, I would say.
All right, 3A, Mary Persons, they'll take on Cedar Grove, and then the other Southwest Georgia team, Carver of Columbus, faces Monroe area.
Yeah, Mary Persons will be at home against Cedar Grove. Cedar Grove's beat Bremen and Hebron Christian to get to where they are right now, but Mary Persons had a little more difficult. They played Long County in the first round. Long had a pretty good season. Played Crisp County and beat them in the second round. And Mary Persons is going in as a 6-point underdog against Cedar Grove. Mary Persons being at home, it's hard to beat them there. They've got a very good history of playing there in Forsyth. I'm going to go with Mary Persons on this game regardless of the spread. Carver's an 8-point favorite over Monroe area. Just looking at, Monroe area has not had like last week they played Gilmer County and beat them, but they beat Sandy Creek in the first round to get to where they are. So they've already had some pretty good competition in the first round. So Carver, I think it looks like they barely beat Upson Lee. So I don't know. Carver's a 8-point favorite. I wouldn't make that one kind of a toss-up. I'm not sure about that game.
I think you're right. Let's go to 2A, where two of the teams out of the Sumter County's region are still in. Fitzgerald will travel to Hogansville to take on Callaway, and Cook High still in it, and they'll take on Columbia.
Fitzgerald's had a pretty easy path to get to where they are right now. Callaway is coming in as a 9-point favorite. I think Callaway will probably beat Fitzgerald. They're going to be playing at home at Callaway. Cook is an 8-point favorite over Columbia. Columbia's too close to Augusta for me to pick them. So I think Cook's playing with a chip on their shoulder and really want to win. So I think Cook County's going to probably win that game.
So far, you and I haven't disagreed on any of these calls, Scott. That's good. In Class A Division I, we did have a surprise last week as Irwin County blanked Bleckley County 31-0. Irwin will take on number 1 ranked Prince Avenue Christian. And then Brooks County, also from down here in Southwest Georgia, will take on Rabun County. What do you think?
I would love to think that Irwin County has a chance against Prince Avenue, but unfortunately, I don't think that. Now, I was genuinely surprised at them shutting out Bleckley County after what you and I saw when we went to Cochran just a couple of months ago. But Prince Avenue's a 21-point favorite. That's a pretty big spread, kind of at this level or round of the playoffs. So I'm going to have to go with Prince Avenue on that one. Brooks is a 2-point favorite over Rabun County. I think Brooks is probably going to beat them by 2 to 3 touchdowns, just simply because you are going from one corner of the state to the other. And I tell you, you can say what you want to, but I think when you got to go all the way from Rabun County to Brooks County, you're going to the North Carolina to the Florida line. That's got to have some effect on those kids and their playing. And Brooks is pretty comfortable at this level of the playoffs, and Rabun County has had some success the past few years, but they rarely get to this level of playoffs.
I got a good buddy up in Rabun County, Roy Quilliams, who is the Parks and Rec director, and really like Roy, but I think he's going to have a tough time. His Rabun County bunch is coming down to face one of the most iconic coaches in Maurice Freeman over at Brooks County, and Maurice really has these guys rolling. I think Brooks County gets the win there as well. I don't want to talk a lot about Sly County's game yet, Scott. We'll get into that, but Sly does host Early County in the Class A Division II playoffs. Let's go with Manchester and Clinch. To me, this is going to be a toss-up, and you have seen both of these teams.
I have, and that's exactly they have it as a toss-up. They don't favor either team. Manchester, the only way I'd probably tip my hat in Clinch's corner is because of the travel, because it is a significant difference. I mean, it's not, if you only got to travel an hour or two, that's not going to affect. But this is a pretty long haul from Manchester to Homerville. Clinch loves to play at home. They definitely have a home field advantage when they play there. I'm going to have to go with Clinch just simply because they've got a very speedy receiver, and they hand the ball off to him. And if he gets into the second level of the defense, he's probably gone. And so, unless Manchester's got an answer for him, it could get out of hand pretty quickly. Macon County's a 5-point favorite over Telfair County. I think Macon County easily beats them. I mean, Telfair's another team that doesn't get this deep in the playoffs normally. Bowden and Dooley. Bowden's a 12-point favorite over Dooley County. Dooley County's got to travel up to Bowden. I think Bowden wins that by at least 12.
I was going to say that's going to be a boat race, in my opinion. I think Bowden's going to win that 3 or more touchdowns.
Well, and Dooley they haven't been challenged yet. They've played Miller County and they played Jenkins County. Jenkins County, they only beat 28-24 on their home turf. So, Bowden is no Jenkins County. Or I should say Jenkins County is no Bowden.
Before we get into Sly County's breakdown, let's let you know that today's show is also being brought to you by Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. They're located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. Go by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of their staff and let them discuss your insurance needs. They can do the discount double check. They also have a life-size cutout of State Farm Jake that you can take your photo with. Go by and see Marty or give him a call at 928-3686. Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance supports all of our local schools. And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Scott, Sly County defeated Lincoln County 49-23. That puts Sly at 11-0. That's the first time in school history they've gone 11-0. They're ranked number 1, and they'll host Early County this coming Friday.
Yeah, this is just we did it a few months ago. We hosted Early County a few months ago, and so two teams that are very familiar with each other have already played once, played each other last season also. It's a game I'm really looking forward to.
I want to quickly, I'm not going to go through all the scoring drives because there was a bunch, Scott, but the most impressive thing to me about Sly County was the number of athletes who scored last week. Jalewis Solomon scored. Zayden Walker had 3 touchdowns. KB Aldridge scored. Carson Westbrook scored. Kendall Sims and Sam Forehand. That's 6 different players that had touchdowns. And that's a lot of assignments for any defense that's scouting Sly County to keep up with this week. The Cats defense saw Jalewis Solomon and Kendall Sims each get an interception last week. Jack Clark, Brody Smith, and Ethan Sellers, those 3 linebackers, really shored up the defense, and I thought they played really well at the linebacker spots. But I really want to give a shout out to these guys: Wyatt Halstead, Dedrick Thornton, Trenton Stubbs, and Zayden Walker, that front 4 of Sly County's defense. And I know they list Zayden Walker as an outside linebacker, but a lot of the times he's walking up and really acting like a 4th defensive lineman. That defensive front really flexed their muscle. Lincoln County did have a little success in the second quarter running the football, Scott, but I thought Tim Peavy and the defensive staff made the necessary adjustments at the half, and we didn't see much of that in the third and fourth quarters.
No, Lincoln County was playing from behind most of the game, and they just if you trying to run the ball and you're down by 2 or 3 touchdowns, a lot of times it's tough to. But as an offense made up of 17, 18-year-old kids, it's tough to get them to buy into that.
Sly County will host Early County. Early County comes in at 8-4. They defeated ECI last week, 43-34. Scott mentioned earlier, Sly beat Early 30-0 back on September the 1st. Early has dropped games this year to Brooks County by a score of 14-0, Irwin County 31-29, and Eufaula over in Alabama 27-24. Scott, they've got 4 losses. One of the things that stuck out to me this week in looking at their schedule, all 4 of their losses have been to teams that are currently still in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's something that you got to look at. I mean, Early County is nobody to take lightly. I mean, it was a game that we circled early in the season during the regular season with a big fat question mark. We didn't know what they got a new coach. The coach that they had last year is in Putnam County now, but they still had the talent. I believe one of their running backs was up visiting Georgia Tech this past weekend when Georgia Tech got their win. So yeah, I mean they've got the talent for sure.
They're led by a really good running back that Scott just mentioned. Good lead in there, Scott. But Ty Stovall averages 123 yards a game. He's got 17 touchdowns on the season. They also have a senior outside linebacker in Bryce Green that's being heavily recruited right now. He leads the Bobcats in tackles with 8 tackles per game on average. Their quarterback is a young man named Aston Grimes. He's a good athlete. But, Scott, they don't throw the ball very often. He's only got 5 touchdowns on the season. That's in 12 games. They've only thrown it for 718 yards on the season. Here's the key, though, and we know they run that traditional wing tee. They've got 2,753 yards. They're a true wing tee offense, and the job for Sly County this week on the defensive side of the ball is to play assignment football and stop the run. We want to make Early throw the football and allow our defensive line to get good pass rush and our defensive backs to do their thing.
Definitely. We need to score and score early because a wing T team is not set up to come from behind. They're set up to keep the game close and grind you out. As long as we play assignment football, we're in good shape. I think last week, really the only glaring problems I think that Sly County had last week, they had a little problem in the special teams and kicking game. But I think I feel quite certain. I've got complete confidence in our coaches that they figured out something, and we're going to see something maybe a little different this week.
All right, let's see here, Scott. Early County averages 27.2 points per game. Sly County averages 44.5 points a game. If you flip it over to the defensive side, Early County allows 19 points a game on average. Sly allows 16.5 on average, but that's somewhat misleading. If you look at what Sly's number one defense has allowed, they only allow 8.5 points per game.
Well, and you notice I saw something new last week that Sly did on defense. Maybe it's not new, but they just had a lot of success with it, where the defense shifts, and one of the linebackers calls for the shift, and that's caused Lincoln County to jump off sides a few times, so much so we had to break up their team from beating up one kid that kept jumping off sides. But I suspect we'll see some more of that again. We'll see how Early County reacts to that. But it seems like every single week we see a different little wrinkle that Sly County's thrown in there that they haven't used before that catches teams off guard.
Well, and we want to make a special note to this Sly County offensive line. They've been pretty good all year. The key to them this coming week against Early County, they need to give Jay Kanazawa a chance to throw the football.
Oh yeah, and he'll eat them alive. I mean, he went 30 for 33 last week.
That's right.
Crazy. That's crazy against a team that's weak. That he did that against Lincoln County in the second round of the playoffs. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Scott, you and I talked about this in the press box last week. Lincoln County, when you went down their roster and looked at who all was starting, they had 12 sophomore starters. That's going to be a team to watch in the next 2 years.
And their guys, it's fun being in the press box because we get to talk to their radio crew and all, and we try to give them some information about us that they can talk about, and they do the same with us. And that was one thing that their radio crew did point out, that hey, we're where y'all were 2 years ago, essentially. I think, I don't know if you said that or one of them said that, but that was said in the press box Friday night during or before the game when we were talking about it.
All right, real quickly before we get into your pick, let's just go through this and you tell me who's going to win this game. Lee County 10-2 takes on Douglas County. Who you got?
I don't remember, because I should have wrote down who I said earlier, but I still think it's Lee County. I'm gonna go with Lee County, just because they've been there before.
Macon County at 10-2 travels to Telfair County. They're also 10-2.
If Macon County gets off the bus without twisting an ankle or something, they should be okay. They ought to win that one.
Dooley County at 8-4 travels up to Bowden, who is 10-2.
I just think, Bowden, if you were going to get to Bowden, Greene County should have done it last week because they caught them. Greene County should have beat Bowden. Some on the internet, and probably if you went to Greene County today, they'd tell you they thought they beat Bowden. I don't think Dooley County is going to catch Bowden sleeping like Greene County did.
Manchester at 9-2 travels to Clinch County, who's 11-1.
I want Manchester to win this one, but I just got to go with Clinch. I got to go with Clinch just simply because they are they're at home and they're used to winning at home.
All right, Fitzgerald 9-3 travels to Hogansville to take on Callaway, who is 11-1.
I think Callaway's going to win this one. I think Fitzgerald's season probably going to come to an end. I don't know if I said that earlier, but I feel like Callaway's going to win this one.
All right, Cook High at 11-2 hosts Columbia, who is 9-3.
I think Cook's playing, like I said, they're playing with a purpose, with laser focus. They want to win every game. It's probably not too difficult for those coaches to motivate them on Friday night. And Columbia is I think it's just a little too close to Augusta for me to pick them.
All right, it's time for the Who You Got part of the show. And Scott, this is the part where every week we pick the team in our local area that we think will win or lose. And only one of those is left. Your hat is a Sly County hat, and they take on Early County in Ellaville. Who you got?
Well, since the Sly was the only one left, I didn't feel bad wearing this hat this time around, since they're the only ones in our area who's left. I think Sly County plays they're starting. I saw when they were playing Lincoln County, they're starting to peak. Jay is just firing on all cylinders. He's checking down. He's looking for the open receiver, and he's finding them. He's getting it to them on offense. I think Jack Clark leading the defense, getting them in position, doing the shifts. Our defensive backs are headhunters and looking for something to happen. Our offensive line loves pancaking folks a little too much, and which is a good thing. I think this is going to be a game Friday night. Sly County should win, and hopefully it'll get some. If they win it like I hope they do, it'll give them momentum they need to get into the Final Four.
I saw where Georgia High School Football Daily has Sly County as a 24-point favorite. I don't think it's going to be that big a spread, but I do believe Sly County gets out of there with a win. Here's what I want to tell all of our area viewers, and I know this program goes all over the country, and we've heard from you, and we appreciate it. But due to the fact that this is Thanksgiving weekend and a lot of folks are out of town traveling to their families, I hope that a lot of the Southland fans, a lot of the Sumter County fans, those who aren't currently in the playoffs, I hope you'll make your way to Ellaville and support the Wildcats. They'll need every bit of it, but I do believe that Sly County comes out on top.
Tim,
Scott,
one thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing we need to think about. Regardless what happens Friday night, Sly can win by 100 on Friday night. It's gonna be the last home football game of the season.
That's right.
So I mean, we've already lost the coin toss. We got to travel, whether it's to Vienna or to Bowden, one or the other. We're going to have to travel next week, and then after that, it's going to be in Atlanta. So if you've been saying, "Hey, I got to get up there. I want to see those kids in Sly County," unless you want to drive to Vienna or Bowden or Atlanta, you better do it next Friday night.
Well, and that's where I was going.
I'm sorry.
This is the last home football game for this senior class. We need to send them out in style. So get up there and support the Wildcats. Let's hope they can pull out a win. Scott, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you and I get to do this again next week as we approach either Bowden or Dooley County. I hope we get to do this from Mercedes-Benz as well. That's the ultimate goal, is getting to do that. But what are your final thoughts going into this ball game Friday night?
I'm chomping at the bit. I'm glad all we got really is Thanksgiving Day and then game day really left, and that's I'm ready for it. I hope the boys are as excited and anxious as I am to I told my wife the other night. She said, last night she called me and she said, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm just anxious about a lot of things." She said, "What?" And I said, "Well, the football game," and named a couple other things. And she said, of course, then being true to form, she quotes the verse saying, "Don't be anxious for anything."
Yeah.
So of course she put me back in my place, but it's hard not to be eagerly anticipating Friday night.
That's right. We hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, gets to spend some time with your family and friends, and we all do have a lot to be thankful for. Scott and I want to thank you for watching the Integrity Sports Podcast each week. We also want to thank our sponsors, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal, Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance, One Digital Solutions, and All South Appraisals. Our show is growing each week. We average about 1,600 views each week, and that's been for about 2 months straight now, Scott. So I think we've kind of got our peak audience there. And you can find us on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on X, which is formerly Twitter, and on several other social media and podcast platforms. Next week, as we enter the semifinal round of the Georgia High School Association playoffs, we hope at this point we will be with you discussing a future game for Sly County. For everybody that watches the program, we're grateful for you. Help us by hitting the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, hit the like button and share it if you're on Facebook. But for my friend Scott Westbrook, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching. So long, everybody.